an orange hair for Nami, although it was a little bit on the drier side. But I was like, oh, this is really good. Hey there, fellow Nerdy fans. Welcome to another episode of the Nerdy Fans Podcast, a place for binge watchers and anime nerds that are young at heart. If you're listening to the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, hello there. Please don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and follow us on our Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. So for today, it's only going to be me because I wanted to film a quick reaction fresh reaction after watching the first episode of One Piece live action. So the day has finally come that Netflix released the live action of the much anticipated series One Piece. And if you're an anime fan or a casual anime watcher, at some point you have heard about the series or the anime One Piece. And of course, the manga is still running today and as the anime as well. However, full disclaimer, I haven't actually watched the anime. And as a big anime fan, I know that perhaps there could be, I don't know whether there is a bit of judgment around the anime community if you're an otaku who haven't watched One Piece. So I would like to know whether you have watched One Piece anime as well or not. So please let me know on the comments down below. And if you're listening on the audio version, please do leave a comment as well. But yes, moving and so yes, with that, I yeah, full disclaimer, I haven't really watched the One Piece because when it first came out, I remember that was I think I was around elementary days back then. I was watching Yu Yu Hakusho, Ayashino Ceres, Supergirls, and I don't know if any of you guys watched that too. Let me know in the comments down below. But yes, those were the anime that I was used to watching. And then when I saw the One Piece drawing, I wasn't the biggest fan. So that's why I didn't watch it. So I hope that I wouldn't get any backlash on this, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. The anime, the anime, but I've heard raving reviews about it, right? The story is awesome, the world building immersive, and etc. So yes, I know. I did try again. I mean, several times. I did try several times to watch the anime, but I just couldn't get into it. But when I saw that Netflix is coming out with a live action series, I was excited, but at the same time skeptical because we all know that live action that are adapted by Hollywood has been quite challenging in the past. It didn't really go well, I would say. So I was very skeptical around this. But when I saw the trailer, it was very promising. So that's why I watched it today. If you're out of the loop, or if you're like me, you haven't actually watched One Piece anime ever. So One Piece is about an exciting journey of a young fella named Luffy who's determined to become the ultimate pirate boss or the king of the pirates. Now, getting a crew together isn't a walk in the park, especially when you start off on your own. So, here's the scoop on how the story usually goes. Luffy asks someone to join his crew. They're not too keen at first, and then he gets into some epic battles to convince them to hop on board. It's a smart move by Oda, the mangaka or the creator, because it helps us understand each character's reasons and makes us feel like their loyalty is earned the hard way. That's what makes this 25-year-long adventure so darn gripping. But let's be real, trying to squeeze all this awesomeness into a shorter version, that's a tough nut to crack. So that's why I was really skeptical also with Netflix adapting this series just because of the immense world building and immense story as well that this series or anime is about. However, when I saw the trailer, it was really quite promising. So that's why I watched it today. And even though this is a live action series, I don't think and I don't even expect that it's going to be as immersive or as detailed as the manga or the anime, because it's just going to be jam packed with all those big scenes, I would have to say. So that's already embedded in my head that I know that it's not gonna be as detailed as the anime and the manga. And even though this is a live action, it's not going to be a reenactment of the original material on a one-to-one basis, because the story is immense. It has been running for so long. I don't think that adapting it the same way one to one would make sense either. As a non-anime watcher of this series, I would prefer it that way as well, because some anime would have some filler episodes anyway, but I'm not sure about One Piece because I haven't really watched it, but I would prefer it to be a bit condensed in a way, because it's going to be difficult to follow if it's too much, right? But yeah, so first impressions of this series, I've watched just now the first episode and I was blown away. Okay, blown away in a sense that it's really hard to pull off a live action series adapting an anime or a manga, right? So with the first episode, I was very impressed in a sense that the characters and the actors embody the character very well. Even though I don't know in detail or in depth each character, I do have a general idea of who they are, because again, I've watched it before. I tried watching like a couple of episodes before when I was a kid, and also tried to dip again my toes on One Piece several years ago and even recently, just because of this live action rights. But I just couldn't get into it. But the seeing the live action, I love that the actors were very much into their character. I can see that they've put their heart to it, and it's quite impressive. And also I am blown away with the costumes as well, because they really did a nice touch, especially with the sword of Zoro, the straw hat of Luffy, like those little touches. Even though I haven't watched the anime, being an otaku myself, paying attention to the littlest of details by the adapters or the people adapting the series is a kind of like an ode of love to the series, I would say. So it's good that I'm seeing that as well on this. And I love also that they were able to create the hair of the characters in a not so eerie way. You know how in anime they have green hair or they have orange hair, and it's not gonna look well if it's done in real life, right? But I was quite impressed with the costume designer or the costume designs on how they were able to pull off a kind of like a realistic hair, green hair for Zoro and an orange hair for Nami, although it was a little bit on the drier side, but I'm still happy with that. And I was like, oh, this is really good. The only adaptation that thoroughly impressed me so far was actually Rurouni Kenshin, but it was done by the Japanese, right? This one was done by Hollywood, which is for a Hollywood live action series, it's a pretty impressive one. What's interesting is that they left Luffy's hair to be curly, which I think they made him like having a Mexican heritage, maybe. But I actually like the touch as well, even though that they didn't fully copy the anime, which is some bits and pieces were adapted from the anime, which I really, really love. But they also made it a bit of their own as well, which is interesting to see as a viewer. And again, the actors have embodied the characters really well. The main actor who is playing Luffy, he has captured Luffy's effervescent charisma and Zoro's charisma as well. Like he's the kind of the tsundere guy, kind of. So it's really impressive. And a fun fact, this Zoro guy was the actor of Enishi in Rurouni Kenshin. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he is Japanese or half Japanese. So that's really, really good. And I was also impressed on the fight scenes, I would say, especially the Zoro fight scenes. And there are also some angles that they actually captured from the anime. I think the one with Zoro being tied up, the way he was tied up, like his legs were a bit not straight, but a bit leaning on the ground, if you know what I mean. So I remember that one, that angle on the anime. So I liked it. They put those little details and touches as a fan service. And even though I am not a fan per se of One Piece, I still saw that on the series. So it was really, really good. I think this series I'm able to follow rather than the anime itself because it's now very long, right? So I am very excited for episode 2 and onwards. And I hope you guys also watched it. And if you watched the first episode, what do you think? Were you impressed? Especially for those One Piece fans out there, are you impressed with the first episode or the series as a whole? If you've watched everything, I would be interested to know, especially if, as someone who hasn't really watched the full anime. So, yes, that's just my first impressions about this series. And I really enjoyed the first episode. And kudos to Netflix and to the whole cast and crew for bringing this epic anime to life and for garnering new fans and for also serving the original fans as well. So, yeah, that concludes my first impressions on the One Piece live action. And thank you so much for listening. And please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on any of the podcasting platforms or subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. It does help with the visibility of this podcast. And before we wrap it, what do you think of the One Piece live action? Is there any specific characters that stood out to you? Please let me know on the comments on YouTube or on Spotify. And I'll see you again on the next episode.